Imagine you are sitting in this really sterile testing center. You know the kind, right? The glow of the computer screen is just harsh, and there is this clock in the corner that is aggressively ticking down.
Oh yeah, that ticking clock is literally the worst part.
Hmm.
It just spikes your adrenaline immediately.
Exactly. So you're sitting there staring at this incredibly dense, dry paragraph on a high-stakes exam. Like maybe it's the TEAS or the HESI nursing test.
Right, the ones where your whole future feels like it's hanging in the balance.
Yeah, your future career, getting into that specific program you want. It all depends on answering one seemingly simple question. What is the point of this passage?
It sounds so straightforward in theory, doesn't it? Like, just find the point, right?
You'd think so, yeah.
But, I mean, in that high-pressure environment, when panic starts to set in, suddenly every single sentence looks incredibly important.
Oh, totally. Everything starts blending together.
Right, the numbers stand out, the definitions look super crucial, and before you know it, you are just completely drowning in details.
Which is exactly why we are dedicating today's deep dive to really demystifying the concepts of main idea and supporting details.
It is such a vital skill, not just for exams, but, for processing information in general.
Yeah, and our goal here is to equip you, the listener, with the exact cognitive tools you need to dissect a text. We want you to completely own that reading comprehension section and never fall for a test maker's trap again.
And they love setting those traps.
They really do. So today's deep dive pulls from this fascinating stack of sources to figure out how this all works under the hood.
We've got some great material to go through today.
We do. We are looking at historical cognitive psychology papers from way back in 1917, some structural reading research from the 1970s, and even the actual test design manuals used by exams like the TEAS and HESI.
And, setting those sources side by side reveals something pretty crucial, actually.
What's that?
Well, this isn't just about test prep or just getting a passing score. What we are really examining is the mechanics of how human brains process information.
Right, how we actually filter things.
Exactly. It is about how we separate the signal from the noise in a world that is, frankly, constantly throwing data at us.
So true. So let's start with the anatomy of a passage, because our sources show that most people get the basic definitions completely wrong.
They really do. It's incredibly common.
And if you don't know what you're looking for, you certainly can't find it when you're under all that pressure.
No, you'll just end up guessing.
Right. So there are three related terms that get collapsed together constantly, and we need to pull them apart. They are the topic, the main idea, and the supporting details.
Pulling those three apart is pretty much the entire foundation of this skill.
So let's begin with the topic. What exactly is it?
Well, the topic is simply what the passage is about. It is usually just a single word or a short phrase.
Like sleep deprivation or something.
Yeah, exactly. Sleep deprivation, or maybe the water cycle, or hospital hygiene. And the crucial thing to understand about a topic is that it has absolutely no truth value.
Wait, no truth value, meaning it doesn't make a claim.
Right.
Like, I can't argue with the concept of sleep deprivation. It's just a concept floating in the air.
Correct. You
Okay.
cannot disagree with it because it isn't asserting anything at all. It's just a thing.
Got it. So how does that differ from the main idea?
Well, the main idea is the complete assertion that the author is making about that topic. It must be a full sentence, and it has to have a functioning verb.
Okay, so sticking with the sleep deprivation example, what would the main idea be?
So instead of just the concept of sleep deprivation, the main idea would be something like, sleep deprivation impairs decision-making even after a single missed night.
Ah, okay. And because it's a full sentence making a claim, it suddenly has a truth value? I can actually argue with that.
Exactly. You can test it against reality.
Right, like I could find a study showing a doctor who missed a night of sleep but still made perfect decisions, and I could use that as a counterexample.
Yes, and that is actually the ultimate diagnostic test for a test taker.
Really? How so?
Well, if you are looking at a multiple choice answer for a main idea question, and you cannot imagine someone disagreeing with the sentence, it is probably just a topic label.
I really like to think of it like a file folder. The topic is just the label stuck on the outside of the folder.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, and the main idea is the actual document inside the folder, the one that you can actually argue with. So if an answer choice lacks a verb making an assertion, it is automatically disqualified as a main idea.
Yes, it is. But test makers know you are looking for that.
Of course they do.
So they introduce the most common trap on these exams, which is the True but narrow answer.
True but narrow. That sounds tricky.
It is. They will give you an answer choice that is a full sentence, and it is factually true according to the passage.
But it's actually a supporting detail, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a piece of evidence used to prove the main idea.
Like a statistic about reaction times dropping by 20%, or maybe a specific anecdote about a car crash.
Yes, and test takers fall for it constantly.
Because it looks familiar,
Yeah,
right?
right. They read the answer choice, they remember seeing that exact statistic in paragraph 2, they verify that it is true, and they just select it.
They confuse truth with primacy.
That's a great way to put it. Just because a statement is true, that doesn't mean it is the overarching point of the entire text.
Yeah, it actually raises a really fascinating question about how we were taught to read in the first place.
Oh, for sure. The education system has a lot to answer for here.
Yeah, because I vividly remember every middle school English textbook telling me that the main idea is always the very first sentence of a paragraph. The classic topic sentence.
We all learned that rule.
But if test passages are throwing in these true but narrow details to trick us, then that old middle school rule must be incredibly dangerous on a nursing exam.
Honestly, it is worse than dangerous. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how reading comprehension actually works.
Wow, really? So where did that flawed rule even come from?
To understand why we were taught that first sentence rule, we have to look back at the historical origins of reading education.
Which our sources actually cover, right?
Yes, our sources point back to a really foundational moment in 1917 with a Columbia University psychologist named Edward L. Thorndike.
Over 100 years ago, what was Thorndike up to in 1917?
Well, he published a paper called Reading as Reasoning, a study of mistakes in paragraph reading.
Okay, and what was he testing?
Thorndike gave school children short paragraphs followed by very simple comprehension questions. And the results completely shocked the educational establishment at the time.
Why? What did you find?
He found that children who could decode every single word fluently, meaning they could read the paragraph out loud perfectly without a single pronunciation error, they still routinely failed to identify what the paragraph was actually claiming.
That is wild. So they were basically just human text-to-speech engines.
Pretty much, yeah.
They were treating reading like this vocal performance, not an intellectual exercise. But how did he actually prove that?
By analyzing their mistakes.
Yeah.
He realized that comprehension wasn't just a passive byproduct of recognizing words in a sequence.
It's not just absorbing words like a sponge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He redefined reading as an active act of reasoning. It's a real-time process of weighing, selecting, and relating ideas together.
So getting the main idea wasn't about just pointing to the first sentence. It was a measurable cognitive skill.
Yes, and this realization directly birthed the modern standardized test.
Oh, wow. So this is where it all started.
Yeah, we have Frederick J. Kelly at the University of Kansas developing the Kansas Silent Reading Test right around 1914.
And the emphasis on silent reading, that was a pretty massive rebellion back then, right?
It really was. At the time, the dominant classroom practice was round-robin oral reading. Students just took turns standing up and reading out loud.
Which we just established doesn't mean they understand anything.
Exactly. Thorndike had just proved that vocalizing words didn't equal comprehension. So Kelly built a test asking students to silently select the central point of a passage.
Wow, so he created the direct ancestor of the multiple choice format used on the TEAS and HESI today.
He did.
Which means the old first sentence rule was just a crutch. It was a way to dumb down the complex reasoning process Thorndike described into this simple follow the directions worksheet task.
Exactly. It was a convenient half-truth that works for contrived simple paragraphs, but not real reading.
So when did we figure out how real reading works?
Well, our sources highlight a massive paradigm shift that happened in 1978, thanks to two cognitive researchers, Walter Kinch and Toon Van Dyke.
Okay, Kinch and Van Dyke, what did they find?
They proved definitively that skilled readers do not just find a main idea sitting cleanly on the page. Skilled readers construct it.
Wait, construct it, like building something from raw materials.
Yes, exactly like that. They argued that our brains build a mental gist, what they called a macrostructure, through three specific real-time cognitive operations.
And what are those operations?
They are deletion, generalization, and construction.
Okay, let's actually apply those three operations to something concrete so we can see how this works under the hood. Give me a clinical scenario.
Sure. Imagine a really dense TEAS passage describing a new hospital protocol.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
It lists the ages of 50 different patients. It mentions that they were all restricted to consuming less than 1,500 calories a day, It notes that their resting heart rates dropped by an average of 10 beats per minute.
Got it.
And it also mentions that the waiting room chairs were recently reupholstered in blue vinyl.
Okay, so Operation 1 is deletion. I'm dropping the blue vinyl chairs entirely. That is completely trivial information that doesn't connect to anything else.
Perfect, yes.
Okay, Operation 2 is generalization. So instead of trying to memorize less than 1,500 calories a day, my brain categorizes that specific number into a broader concept, like caloric deficit or strict diet.
Exactly. And you generalize the 10-beat drop as improved cardiovascular metrics.
Right. And that leads to Operation 3, which is construction. So based on what I just generalized, what is the overarching point?
Right. What would you say it is?
The overarching point is that implementing a strict caloric deficit leads to improved cardiovascular health in this patient group.
Yes. And notice what you just did. That exact sentence. Implementing a strict caloric deficit leads to improved cardiovascular health. That does not exist anywhere in the text I gave you.
Oh, wow. You're right.
You did not highlight it. You built it.
That is a wild realization. The main idea might be entirely invisible. It might never be explicitly stated in a single sentence at all.
It happens all the time on these exams.
But wait, if I have to construct this in my head, how does a standardized multiple-choice test grade my subjective construction without being totally unfair?
That is where the tension lies, honestly. To grade it objectively, test makers rely on the structural hierarchy of the text. They leave tells or clues for you to follow.
Kind of like a treasure map.
Exactly. In 1975, a researcher named Bonnie Meyer did a landmark study on text structure. She showed that expository texts, the dense, dry kind you find on science and nursing exams, are built using a very small set of recurring logical patterns.
What kind of patterns?
Things like cause and effect, problem and solution, sequence and comparison.
How do those patterns actually act as clues for a test taker, though?
Through signal words. If you see words like because, as a result, or therefore, the author is signaling a cause and effect structure.
Ah, okay.
If you see however, or in contrast, it is obviously a comparison. First, next, finally, signals a sequence.
Oh, I see.
Meyer proved that if you detect these structures, you know exactly what kind of main idea to construct. Like, if the passage is structured as a problem and solution, the main idea absolutely must contain the problem and the proposed solution.
It can't just be a random detail from paragraph 2.
Exactly.
Okay, so the structure tells me what the foundation of the argument is, but what about all the details piled on top of it? Our sources make a huge point about differentiating between major details and minor details.
Yes, that distinction is crucial.
How do we keep them straight when the clock is ticking and we're panicking?
You have to think about their function. Major details directly support the constructed main idea. Minor details merely support a major detail. They are one full level removed from the core argument.
Let's go back to that hospital protocol passage.
Sure. So the overarching idea is that a caloric deficit improves heart health.
Yeah.
The major detail would be the actual study data, right? The average 10-beat drop in heart rate.
Okay, and a minor detail would be like the specific brand of heart monitor they use to measure those 10 beats.
Exactly. The brand of the monitor supports the measurement, but the measurement is what actually supports the main idea about heart health.
You know, this sounds incredibly similar to playing a game of Jenga. Like, the details are the wooden blocks.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, you can poke out a minor detail, like the brand of the heart monitor, and swap it out for a different brand, and the tower still stands perfectly fine. The argument holds.
Right, it doesn't fall over.
But the main idea is the actual table that the tower is built on. If you pull out the main idea, the entire passage collapses into a pile of totally unrelated facts.
That is a really brilliant way to test your answer choices. If removing a concept collapses the meaning of the whole passage, you are looking at the main idea.
And if removing it just loses a bit of nuance,
then it is a detail. And this addresses another massive misconception test takers have, which is the belief that all details carry equal weight.
Right, they definitely do not.
No, they don't. Treating a minor Jenga block as if it is the foundation of the passage is exactly how you pick the wrong answer.
Which brings us to the actual design of these exams. If this Kinch and Van Dyke construction model is so well documented and the Jenga analogy makes it so clear, why do people still fail these reading comprehension sections at such high rates?
It's because the test makers are fully aware of these cognitive shortcuts.
They're on to us.
They really are. And they design their distractors, the wrong answer choices, to actively punish students who try to bypass the hard work of construction.
That's brutal.
It is. And this actually taps into a decades-old educational debate known as the reading wars.
The reading wars. The battle over how to teach kids to read. Where do reading comprehension tests fit into that?
Well, in the 1970s and 80s, skills-based educational programs treated finding the main idea as a drillable, isolated skill. You would just do worksheets on it.
Yeah, I remember those.
But whole language advocates, most prominently a linguist named Kenneth Goodman, warned that this approach was creating something he called comprehension theater.
Comprehension theater. I love that term. That implies students are just acting out the role of a good reader without actually doing the cognitive work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But how does a student fake comprehension on a standardized test?
Mostly by relying on visual matching and tone rather than actual construction.
Give me an example.
Okay, so the student reads a really dense paragraph about cellular biology that they barely understand. They look at the question and they look at the answer choices.
Right.
They find a highly specific noun in an answer choice, say mitochondria. They scan the passage until they see the word mitochondria and they just select that answer.
Oh, wow. So they haven't constructed a main idea at all. They have literally just played a game of memory match.
Yes, and that completely destroys the construct validity of the test. The exam is no longer measuring reading comprehension. It is just measuring test savviness.
And people game the tone, too.
Oh,
but...
all the time. Well-prepped students also game the test by looking at the tone of the answers. They automatically eliminate answers that use extreme words like always or never, just assuming those are traps.
So how do the makers of the TEAS and HESI fight back against this comprehension theater?
They game the gamers.
Huh.
Yeah, to ensure you actually constructed the main idea, test makers will deliberately make the correct answer sound incredibly boring, modest, or heavily paraphrased.
They hide the right answer in plain sight.
Exactly. They will swap out the vocabulary so you can't just match words. And meanwhile, they will take a minor true detail and dress it up in authoritative, sweeping language to make it look like a main idea.
That is so devious. They know we are drawn to confident-sounding answers, so they use our own test savviness against us.
They absolutely do.
They make the trap look like the prize. And I guess this completely dismantles another common misconception, which is the idea that a good summary is just a list of the most interesting details.
Oh, yeah. Piling on details just produces a longer sentence, not a better summary.
Right.
A true summary commands the hierarchy. It knows what the main idea is, it retains the major details, and it aggressively deletes the minor details no matter how interesting they sound.
So we spent a lot of time decoding the mechanics of the test itself. But zooming out, why does this specific cognitive skill actually matter in the real world? Like, why do nursing programs care so deeply that you can distinguish a main idea from a minor detail?
Because the stakes on a hospital floor are infinitely higher than the stakes in a testing center.
That's very true.
Let's say you are a clinician reading a patient's chart, or maybe an admitting note during a shift change. You are under intense time pressure. You are doing main idea and supporting details work in real time with real lives on the line.
You have to separate the chief complaint from all the noise.
Exactly. The chief complaint is the main idea.
Yeah.
The surrounding patient history, the routine vitals, the normal lab values, those are all just supporting details.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Structurally, it is identical to the SBIR handoff format that nursing students learn.
SBAR, right. Situation, background, assessment, recommendation.
Yes. And the assessment part, that is your constructed main idea.
Man, if I misread a chart because I lack this skill and I mistake a perfectly stable vital sign, which is just a minor Jenga block, for the chief concern, that is a direct patient safety issue.
It really is.
Or worse, if I delete a major detail because I thought it was minor, the entire diagnostic tower collapses.
And honestly, it is the exact same cognitive mechanism you use in everyday life, too.
Oh, like where else?
Well, when you are skimming a long, rambling Slack message from your manager, trying to catch the buried action item, you are performing deletion, generalization, and construction just to figure out what they want you to do.
Oh my gosh, yes. We also see this go incredibly wrong in science journalism all the time.
Yes. The mismatched headlines are the perfect example of poor construction.
Totally.
A news headline is supposed to be the main idea claim. But so often, a journalist will take a minor, highly caveated finding hidden deep in a study's methodology, say, a specific enzyme reacting to caffeine in a Petri dish, and promote it into an unqualified, sweeping headline.
Like coffee cures cancer.
Exactly. And what nursing entrance exams are testing is your ability to reverse engineer that exact error.
Wow. Okay.
Can you check whether the stated main idea is genuinely supported by the structural details in the text, or is it just a minor block pretending to be the foundation?
That is such a powerful way to look at it. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's synthesize everything we've uncovered into a quick, actionable checklist for you, the listener.
Sounds good.
If you are heading into an exam, keep these principles in mind. Number 1, the topic is just a label. The main idea is a full sentence making an assertion you can actually argue with.
Right, the folder versus the document.
Exactly. Number 2, beware the true but narrow answer. Just because a detail is factually correct doesn't mean it is the overarching point of the passage.
Don't fall for the trap.
Number 3, forget the middle school first sentence rule. The main idea might be entirely invisible, just waiting for you to construct it using deletion and generalization.
The Kinch and Van Dyke method.
You got it. Number 4, details prove the idea, they never replace it. You have to understand the hierarchy of your Jenga blocks.
Pull the wrong one and the argument still stands.
And finally, number 5, the ultimate diagnostic test. If every other sentence vanished, which single concept prevents the passage from totally collapsing?
That really is the ultimate test. You know, we have spent this entire deep dive talking about human cognition and Thorndike's reasoning and how our brains construct meaning.
We really covered a lot of ground today.
But I want to leave you with a final thought about where medicine, education, and technology are all heading right now.
Oh, where's that?
Well, hospitals are increasingly turning to large language models to summarize dense patient charts. And testing centers are even experimenting with AI to generate and grade reading comprehension passages.
Wow. Which actually raises a pretty massive question. When an AI summarizes a dense medical file, is it actually performing the dilution, generalization, and construction that Kinch and Van Dyke described?
That's the question. Does it actually understand the hierarchy? Or is a large language model just the ultimate engine for Kenneth Goodman's comprehension theater?
Oh, that's a chilling thought.
Right. And AI doesn't actually understand the text. It just matches statistical patterns of words with terrifying efficiency.
Yeah.
It is literally acting out the role of a reader.
It's pure comprehension theater on a massive scale.
So the next time you rely on an AI-generated summary to get the main idea of a critical document, ask yourself something. Did the system actually comprehend the point? Or is it just a very convincing performance? You need to start reverse engineering the world around you.
Because at the end of the day, whether you are trying to pass the TEAS exam, or diagnosing a patient in a crowded hospital, or trusting an AI summary, well, you have to be the one who can look at a chaotic stream of information, cut through the noise, and construct the truth.